you Google the word dense and just put the definition up on the screen for me? I don't know if the kids are using this anymore as a way of saying that someone is not very bright. It is, I think it still is an informal, there you go. The first adjective definition of it as an adjective is it's closely compacted in substance, like a dense volcanic rock. The second one, which is more informal, is of a person is stupid. I introduced that concept because what I'm about to show you is about 35 seconds long. And the intensity and the sheer density of stupidity that is fit into this 35 seconds is fascinating.
It's concentrated.
It is so concentrated. It is the densest example of a dense person that I could give you. And
it's like a Tide Pod of idiocy.
It is like a Tide Pod within a Tide Pod. It's like here is Dave Rubin with just whatever he's getting paid by the organization that sent him to Israel and bought him his mirrored sunglasses and his his dress-up IDF outfit. Is really, really getting their money's worth because he is willing to, well, fortunately for him, he's not that bright. So it's probably not as painful as it should be to him. But listen to his explanation of what's going on and how he ties it into sort of COVID denialism. It's fascinating. This only takes 35 seconds to express.
And who knows how many of those people are actually students? They're all masked, and I firmly believe now that COVID was just a test run to see how we could normalize masks so we could have jihadists out in the streets. We don't know how many of them are, as I said, students, but how many of them are even citizens of the United States. And just try to imagine for just 1 second, if this was a group of white students screaming about black people, or if this was MAGA supporters burning down things at Columbia, Joe Biden would literally send in the National Guard. Right?
Okay.
But the left does not know when the left goes too far.
Okay. And we're going to have to play this again and break it down, but let's just start to the end. We just played you clips of New York City Police Department come with a vehicle I've never ever seen in my life. And it is some type of a vehicle that has it's an NYPD branded vehicle that has a sort of ladder ramp type of situation where they brought in SWAT teams with shields to barge into this building to throw out these college students who were in fact college students.
Yep. Turns out.
We just watched footage of pro-Israel so-called protesters who really look more like thugs sent out to beat up protesters at UCLA while the fully militarized, geared up cops just watched them.
But it's the ultimate meaningless sort of distinction because, as it's been shown, these were all students and they don't care either. They still condemn it.
No, of course. They're all students, and the National Guard or some iteration, maybe it was municipal and state as opposed to the National Guard, were in fact called out. In fact, the media is full of images of just seas of state cops, city cops.
I believe it was a strategic resources group.
All and all.
That was made for anti-terror.
And it's just amazing how much stupidity just got in the last 12 seconds of that video. But let's get to the front part. The part where I don't even know if they're college students, as if that makes a difference to him. But this part about the COVID thing is and we should also say, putting aside the fact that all those UCLA pro-Israel sort of thugs also wearing ski masks. The cops all wearing ski masks.
As they arrest professors.
Maybe he hasn't been watching the news, but let's continue.
Who knows how many of those people are actually students? They're all masked, and I firmly believe now that COVID was just a test run to see how we could normalize masks so we could have jihadists out in the streets. We don't know how many of them.
Okay, stop. So now he firmly believes that COVID was a test run so we could have masks out in the street so that we can hide the identities of jihadists. So presumably, COVID was deployed. COVID.
Right.
I'm just, using the parlance of the COVIDers. COVID was deployed by jihadists.
Like Fauci.
Like Fauci or whomever it was. And their idea was, hey, let's deploy a virus that will, of course, impact, everybody. And let's make it so that it kills just a couple of million people in the, 1.5 million in the U.S. instead of, let's say, 10 million or 50 million. Let's not take any credit for it. Let's not threaten the world with releasing another one. That would be too direct. Let's just use it as a way that people can use masks so they can't be doxxed at protests in the future to argue against an Israeli genocide of Palestinian people. Brilliant idea. You know what's so amazing about that that idea, fellow jihadist, is that it's so indirect that nobody will be able to figure it out. You'd have to be an absolute genius on the level of Einstein to figure out this plan because it's so obtuse, and yes, it's under the radar. It's actually to the side of the radar.
To me, it looks like, people did a mask uptake, kind of like post-bird flu in Asia, because a respiratory virus is maiming people.
You're an idiot, Matt. If you don't see that the jihadists did that as a test case to get you used to the concept of future pandemics.
Nobody had
Did you understand that was it MERS? Was it SARS? SARS was just a way to open the door for COVID to get everybody wearing masks.
As a test run for the test run.
Mm-hmm. And this whole thing too with like asbestos remediation. Jihadists have been basically perpetrating this fraud that asbestos is bad for your lungs so that it can normalize people having masks so that when COVID hit, there'd be a lot of people wearing N95 masks to allow jihadists to go protest in the future without being identified. You got to think this way. You got to think this through, Matt. Sorry. Is there nobody who works around Dave Rubin, who talks to Dave Rubin, who can sit him down and go like, dude, if you want to keep doing this, just do it. But just remove all sharp objects from your, like we're worried about you. You're going to poke your own eye out. That level of stupidity is just, nobody's that stupid who watches your show. And Rubin's like, I don't know about that.
They're going to really miss any mileage they can get out of the COVID stuff because I feel like it's receding just very fast.
Oh.
And it's still their totem.
Oh, totally. I mean, all the crime folks, all the anti-vax folks, all the, the people, like, remember, like, all the this is an authoritarian play to shut down speech. Like, it's amazing that the cops are doing this now when there's no COVID. It's so strange. The cops don't even have to say, like, don't catch COVID. That's why we're coming and knocking your heads in this encampment. All of these people who built their sort of like entire business model around this stuff, they're going to be reaching back for this for years. And it'll work with a lot of their audience just because, Vince Foster worked up until a couple years ago. So it will work. And yes, 99% of you have no idea what I mean when I say Vince Foster. And that is because you're normal people.
You're good.
You're normal people. But if you really want to go look it up, be my guest. But understand that to be Vince Fostered was a verb amongst right-wing talkers as late as like 4 or 5 years ago.
Dan Loesch, I think, was the last
Yep.
one.
Unbelievable. Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.